So the main concern now is all these hot spots that are smoldering in the peat. Right now, the main concern was for the community of Stumpy Point, and so these lines have been the ones that people have been, or the work's been primarily on this northeast corner. There's pumping all along this road and this road just to wet down the peat to soak it down and build up the way. They're also pumping to build up the water table so it rises up and puts up the smoldering peat. Hopefully they'll get it up high enough where they can get a lot of it out. Unfortunately, it just takes a long time to do that with no soaking rain. It'll continue to smolder with the weather getting hotter and drier. It's not going to help it. Like the sun coming out this afternoon and the wind picking up, it just feeds the smoldering peat underneath. So that's what they're going to be working on for indefinite future. The Evans Road fire, which was in 2008, I believe, was smoldered for 2 months at least. It started in June, and they didn't really declare it out until October or so, or November even. So really, it takes a good lot of soaking rain to bring up the water table or to put it out like a tropical storm or something like that. But we're doing everything we can right now in this area to knock down as much of it as we can with the pumping. And then a lot of the work is taking place along 264 down in here. I know there's a lot of concern with the road closure right now, and they're wondering when it's going to reopen. The primary problem right now is just firefighters on the road and working along the edge of the road to suppress a lot of the smoke coming up from the peat that's smoldering in there. Hopefully, that'll be taken care of within a week, hopefully. So like Bonnie had said, there's a lot of concerns about wildlife. It is a fire-adapted ecosystem, and most of the animals have lived there, you know, for eons and generations and thousands of years, and they're all adapted to it too. I'm sure there were a couple casualties probably, but nothing significant. There's been fires there pretty much every 20 years. I know there's one there in the 50s and 70s, the 80s. I don't think there's been a big one there since the 80s. And so it's sort of due to burn again, and it's just a sort of natural cycle out there. The things that were probably affected most were some of the reptiles like frogs and snakes and turtles and stuff like that. Red-cockaded woodpeckers, there are colonies, but not really in that area, so they probably weren't affected very much. And if there were, it would have been very few and far between, so they'll be okay also. So the wildlife will continue as it always has in there. Does anybody have any specific questions about the fire or what we're doing on suppression efforts right now? Or
how we go out there bird watching, and it pretty much is impenetrable.
Yeah.
How are you getting in there to cut these canals and get the water where it needs to be?
Well, we have what we call tractor plow units, big, heavy bulldozers with wide tracks. They call them low ground pressure. It sort of lets it ride over the top of the root mat and everything. That has a big plow in the back that opens up the soil down to supposedly to the mineral soil, even though this is so organic, it's hard to get down that deep. But it usually creates a little trough that fills up with water. And you do have to worry about that because a lot of times we've got tractor plows stuck in situations like that have taken weeks to get out. And they get to bring another tractor in to try to pull that tractor out, and then they get stuck and bring excavators in. And
we also have equipment that they call Marsh Masters with their same width of tracks, but they're a much lighter piece of equipment. And right now, if you look through there, we're using rainbirds and sprinkler systems, and that's mostly what's taking the personnel and those equipment out there. The big tractor plow units, the ground is so wet that they're not able to sustain weight. All we've done so far is got them stuck. So there's a Marsh Master right there.
And then there's flex tracks that.
And there's flex tracks similar to that. So
what kind of cost are you looking at in terms of?
Last I saw, I think after last night, it was up to 2.4 million so far.
Where are you guys pulling your staff in from, or you know?
They're from all over the United States. We've got them. I do the thing every morning with recognizing states. This morning we had Washington State, we had Maine. The only thing I'm trying to cover Florida, Arizona, we got Maryland. I mean, they're from everywhere, and different agencies: U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Forest Service, and then we have a
National Parks.
AD, which is administrative term, where we hire folks. It may be a retired firefighter or whatever, but we've got them from everywhere, and there's about 202 personnel on the fire now.
How do y'all divvy up the cost of this with all of the agencies?
Well, there's different jurisdictions here. Down in here, it's Fish and Wildlife Service, but then inside this pink boundary, it's the Dare Bomb Range. And so that's, we have a contract with the Air Force and the Navy that we handle all suppression on the bomb range. So that's already under contract, but I believe as it is right now, we'll be reimbursed from the federal government for all the suppression work done outside this pink line down in here.
Depending on what division you're working on, it's assigned to those two agencies, but the bottom line is that it'll be picked up by the federal tax dollar.
Have you decided what started it, or?
Lightning. Yeah, it wasn't turned to be lightning down here where supposedly it hit a tree, it splintered.
Was it during one of the tornado periods?
Well, the start was May 5th. It could have been a hurricane damaged tree that was dry, and so when the lightning hit it, you know, it started pretty quickly.
It's closed right now, is it?
264 between this 10-mile stretch between Englehart, which is over that way. I think it's pretty much this area is the part where most of the activity is taking place right now, with these spots along the road in there.
Well, in terms of your command structure, the operational periods, those things, these folks might not have been involved in any kind of fire or anything. Tell them a little bit about what.
Okay. Well, what we have is called the incident management team. There's 3 different types of incident management teams, depending on the complexity of the incident. There's type 1, type 2, and type 3. We're what you call a type 2 team, which is sort of a medium complexity. It's not like the New Orleans hurricane, you know, where it was just a major mess and everything. We get teams there supporting, I guess, type 1 teams. But most of the fires we have around here are what they consider type 2 fires. The team basically consists of, 40 people, 40 overhead personnel, which is the administrative sort of arm of the team, as finance, logistics, planning unit, resource unit, everything you need to support the operations, basically. And so we have probably 40 overhead personnel, and then, you know, yesterday was like 200 operational personnel, and today I guess we're down to about 160 or so. Well, the blue team went home, so.
Yeah, it's a total of about 202.
Yeah, and so in order to support all the operations, of course, you need a lot of logistical things, like to support the tractors, the diesel fuel, the housing of the people, the feeding of the people when they're out there on the lines, getting the food to them. There's just a lot of logistics involved, and then of course, while you have logistics involved, you need a lot of finance involved to keep up and track it all. So it's a pretty big operation.
How are you feeding them?
Right now, we're eating breakfast at the hotel. Lunch is usually catered, you know, just some sort of box lunch or bag lunches. Usually the people working on the line would get a bag lunch in the morning after our operational briefing at 7:30, and they'll take the lunch to the field with them. And then most of the time, I guess they have dinner out there also, or do they? It sort of depends on the situation or the incident. They're probably coming off the line at 7:30 and eating dinner back in Manio somewhere right now.
In place there?
Well, our team is there, I guess, if we stay the duration, will be until the 26th. What we do is 10 days on, like 1 day travel on each end and 10 days of working. And then we'll transition out with another team.
So somebody will be there as long as it takes?
Yes. Now, it may be cut back. We might not need as much overhead because it might not be as many people on the ground actually doing the operation. It might just be maintaining pumps and moving hose and moving sprinklers and stuff, which will cut back on the operation, which will cut back on the overhead. But we'll be there pretty much until you don't see smoke coming up anymore.